Okay, so now we're at the stage where we have created our folder for our site. We've populated it with all of the images that we're going to need, and we have some nicely created mock-ups to follow along when we actually build our site in the web. So now we have to go find our program. So I will probably try and demo some of this in CS6 and some of this in CC. But I'm going to start with CS6 because it's a little more confusing there, and then we'll get into CC and we'll look at it that way as well. So come to applications and you can find whatever Adobe program you have. I'm going to drag it down here to the menu so I can get to it, and I'm going to click it, and this is kind of how both programs will open in a very similar way. You will have this open, and then you will get this welcome screen dialog box. Now, I have not yet created a site for the Paris site, so I want to build a new one. So the very first thing I want to make is not an HTML document. It's a Dreamweaver site. So I will click Dreamweaver site. Now I have to name my site. I'm going to call this one Paris_2 to match my folder. And I'm going to click on this little folder to find the root folder, which I want to be Paris2. Once I choose that, I can click Save, and I will see down here in the files that all of my assets are now available to me in Dreamweaver. If you're in CC, it'll usually pop up at the top, but it's the same files folder. It's right there. Once I've made my actual site, my next step is to create an HTML document. Now, I don't want to click HTML right here, and the reason is because it will open an entirely blank document with nothing really for me to work with. To make my life a little easier, I'm going to click More. Now, in More, I have a whole variety of different things I can select from, all the way from HTML to PHP. I want to click Blank Page HTML because this is a one-page site. If I was creating a multi-page site, I might end up making a template which works like an InDesign master page. Now, for those of you in CS6, you will have all of these options. For those of you in CC, you will only have the bottom two options. For that reason, I am going to use this one because this is the same as will be in CC. So it's an HTML5 document, which has a little bit extra coding in it, which is kind of neat. But we'll delete this side column. But just so you can see, there's a whole variety of different useful templates that you can later use to create sites. So this squiggly part here means that it's a liquid layout, so it's a little more web mobile friendly, but we're not worried about any of that. We're going to do HTML5, 2-column fix, right sidebar header. So this is the one we are going to choose. The next thing that is really important is that Layout CSS is selected to create new file. The reason is because I don't like the CSS attached. You can, however, add it to the head if you want. It just kind of puts the CSS in a different place. But this is cleaner and neater, and this is the way I like to do it. So we're going to do create new file, HTML5, 2-column fix, right sidebar header. And I'm going to hit create. Now the first thing it's going to prompt me to do is to save my style sheet. So I'm going to call this Paris2 once again, and it says where to save it, Paris2 folder, because it already is linked to my root folder and knows to save it there. I'm going to hit save. That is now saved, and then it will open up my site for me. So here is my new site. So let's zoom out so we can kind of see. So this is kind of the layout I currently have. It's not exactly what I want. We'll have to make some adjustments, and the colors definitely are right, but it's all pretty easy. So let me show you where everything you'll need is. I'm currently in split design mode. I don't want to be in code, and I don't want to be in design. I want to be in split. And the reason is this is not always 100% accurate. And this is a little hard to understand if you're not familiar with the code already. So split is a great method because as I click objects and move through, it will take me to that area in the code and I can start to learn about the code. So that's all good and well. So there's a few things I want to do first. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to actually title my document, Welcome to Paris. And you can see that will change this item here. If I scroll up, bloop, title now says Welcome to Paris. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the title, and I'm going to save it. So File, Save. I'm going to call it Index. The first page of any website forever that you ever make always has to be called Index. So I'm going to save it in Paris2, click Save, and now I'm ready to go. So now I have my source code. I can click up here in this little tab to my CSS. This will be the same in CC and in CS6. And I can look at my CSS versus my code. If you're seeing pink, then it's CSS, and that means it's the styling. It's telling everything what size to be, what color to be, where to sit, what position you're in, how you work, what you do when you hover, all of that. So this is all the styling. You can see that it shows me the font, it shows me background colors. I have all these different notes. I have colors and tags and all kinds of stuff. So if you're seeing pink and you're highlighting things and it's not live updating over here, you're in the CSS and you need to click back to source code. So now the first thing I want to do is I want to get this more like the site that I'm creating. So the first thing I want to delete is this right-hand column. So I'm going to zoom in just a little. And I'm going to click the column. Now you can try and grab the column, and in that case I was able to entirely grab the sidebar. But if you're having trouble and you're clicking around and you're not able to get to it, you can always just kind of come to the code and try and find it. So if I click this link 1, I can see it's here. And then over here in the code I see div class sidebar 1. If I double click that name, it will highlight the whole sidebar. And then I can just delete it basically. So I can come here, I can grab it. All of the code for that is highlighted from the top tag to the bottom tag where it says end sidebar, and I can hit delete. And now that sidebar is gone. However, we can now see that this item is not the right size, and we have to fix that. So once we've deleted the sidebar, we want to make this thing wide again to the correct size. So where do we do that? If I scroll over here, I'm not seeing anything about size. There's nothing that says size. But we know that this item is called content. So if I come to the CSS here, I can find the word content, and I can see kind of what styling it has applied to it. So in this case, right there, content, I can see that it's 780 pixels wide, and I can change that to 1,000. So let me show you a couple places where we can change it. We can come straight to the CSS and write right in here 1,000. Hit refresh, and it will make it 1,000 wide. We can also, instead, come over to the properties panel, which should be right here, and type in the width. Let's make it 900 so you can see the change. Click, and it will change the size. We can also go to the all rules, which is available right here in the CSS panel. Find content, double click it. Let me do that again. So double click it, it will pop up. I can change the size here. Click apply or OK. And then the last place I can change it, other than the code, other than the rules, other than right here, is I can click the edit rule. So I still have to select content, or select it here, and then hit edit rule, and I can then come change that item. So those are all the places you can edit rules directly in the CSS, from the rules menu, from this menu here, and then also sometimes from something called page properties below, but I'm not going to really mess with that. We can kind of see it by page properties. I can mess with a little bit of stuff. I don't like to do it from the page properties because it ends up messing up where it's located over here. So now we have this thing 1,000 pixels wide, but we have another problem. Hit Command S to save it. It's now wider than the rest of the document, and we need to fix that. So this is kind of the hardest part, is just getting this set up. Now I know that there's another box that's holding this box that if I click it, it's hard to grab. It's called container. So if I don't see the name, I can come to the source code and I can see that when I click it, it's called container, because container highlights. So it shows me that container is taking up most of the space here. Now container is not the right size. So let's go to the CSS, let's find the rule container, and let's change that one to 1,000 pixels wide. Refresh. Done. Now I'm at the basis to start styling and creating my document. So I'm going to save the CSS by clicking in the CSS and clicking Command S. Save my source code by clicking Command S. And now let's view this live in the browser. So preview in any of the browsers you have installed on your computer will appear here. If you are home and you do not have Firefox installed, it will not appear. It will only appear if you have it already installed. So that's something to know. So you can see I can't get Internet Explorer here because there's no real way to install that on a Macintosh computer. So I can't test it in that program yet. But I will open in preview and let's see what we have here. I'm going to zoom out a little, hitting Command minus. And we can see that here's my site. So now it is one column with a header and a footer. I have a gray background, and when I look up here at the top tab, it says Welcome to Paris. This is where you want to be started. So this is how you've created your first document. So once that's done, you're ready to move on to styling.